So you have decided that you would like to start investing in real estate. And well, that's a great first step, but now you don't know how to find the good deal or don't know what exactly you need to be looking for to find one. Today, we're going to be going through all the factors and potential deal breakers that you need to consider when looking for an investment property, specifically one that you would like to use as a rental property. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Welcome in, guys. Rachit here. Today I'm going to be showing you how I go about looking for my deals and what exactly I look for throughout the entire process, all the way from looking at deals on my computer to making offers and then going at looking at houses afterwards. And yes, I mean afterwards. I'm also going to be showing you how to look at these properties in the eyes of a potential tenant so that you can prioritize the good ones and not waste your time on the bad ones. Some of these tenants will pay top dollar for a better property, and you have to be able to figure out what properties these are. This way, you can prioritize the properties that tenants will pay top dollar for. But the first thing, before you start doing any of this, you have to figure out your target market and a niche that you can start to control and take a hold of. Here in Minnesota, I found my niche after doing a lot of research on the different rental rates for different property sizes and then comparing this to how much these properties went for if I wanted to purchase them. I figured out that single-family homes that went for a certain size with the right combination of bedrooms and bathrooms provided the best value in terms of what it cost to purchase that type of house. You need to make sure that you find the right value for the money that you're about to invest. Because at the end of the day, you want to end up with this rather than this. In order to start this investigation process, I went to websites like Zillow, Trulia, Facebook Marketplace, and Craigslist and searched for properties that were up for rent in various categories, including condos, multifamily homes such as duplexes and fourplexes, as well as single-family homes of various sizes, but particularly ones that had either 3 or 4 bedrooms. Now, when I did this, I did it for every category on all of those websites, but just for example's sake, let me show you how to find the current rental rates in an area for a single-family home on just one of them. We'll start off on Zillow because that is where most of my tenants usually come from, so I find it the most accurate for looking at rental comparables. So what you do is you start off by looking at cities near you that you are thinking of investing in and drawing a map around that area. Then you can filter by rent versus buy, the size of the house, including the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms, the type of home, which we will look for single-family homes, along with whatever other criteria you want. In this search, we're going to be looking for single-family homes that are at least 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and at least 2,000 square feet. Then, after hitting done, you should be able to see all the houses within your search criteria and you can start clicking into them to see what the houses really look like, whether they are generally in good condition to get that rent that you want or a house that looks like Freddy Krueger's face. Now, I will talk about some of the things you need to pay attention to, but there may be some deal breakers and other factors that you won't be able to see online. But I'll get into these later in the video when we're talking about what to look for when you're seeing the property in person. During this process, however, I'm generally looking for very basic things such as square footage, the location, the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms, and what sort of rent that equates to. Once I have looked through several websites and found some properties and have a good idea of what the rental rates are in the area, I try to go hunt for those properties for sale. You can't do any sort of calculations on how good a rental deal is if you do not know how much these properties that you are looking for rental comparables for are actually sold for. So now you have to search the houses for sale instead of rent. And just to narrow the search, you can put the price down to something you are more comfortable with. After clicking done, you will see all the houses that are for sale and can run the same process on these properties. Now, I want to quickly touch on some of the main things that you should be looking for when searching for a good property online to buy. First is the pictures, and I don't mean the quality of the pictures or if they're blurry or if they have bad lighting. I mean actually having pictures that show you the majority of the house. Because if they only have a few pictures posted for a property, this could mean one of two things. Either a red flag because they don't know how to show the bad parts of the house, or just plain incompetence from the realtor that is listing the house. Now, just because they don't have a lot of pictures doesn't mean this is a bad deal or something that you shouldn't look at. But with the vast amount of properties on the market, you need to pick and choose where you allocate your time. So I would rather use my time on properties where I can fully analyze them on my computer rather than not being able to do my due diligence at all. Now, when you're looking at these pictures, you need to look at them with a grain of salt. Just because you see one bad thing that doesn't look good, such as maybe the kitchen doesn't have the right color wood or some of the upgrades that you wish it had, that doesn't mean that you should dismiss this house, because it just could be a value creating opportunity. You can always update the kitchen or bathroom later with your profits to make this look better. I'll talk more about this later in this video when we are looking at the properties in person. But the point is that even the pictures can be deceiving at times. And this can actually be a good thing because it can scare off other potential buyers. But not you, because you're learning from this video that this can mean that there will be less competition and a lower potential price for you to purchase at. Some of the other key terms that you need to be familiar with are when the description says that the house needs some TLC or the property is sold as is. This could mean that the seller is very motivated to sell, or it could also mean that the place needs a lot of work, and you should only pursue it if you are ready to do those major improvements. But most likely, you can also get these properties at a steep discount from what they would be worth if they were fully updated and ready to move into. Now this is the hardest part because you have to wait and find these properties that match some of the rental comps that you looked for earlier. Now the goal is to hit the 1% rule, which means that your monthly rent should equal at least 1% of your purchase price. With the current market, however, this is getting harder and harder to do. But if you have the right conditions, you can get away with going less than 1% as well. One of our houses we just recently purchased for $305,000, and we have rent coming in at $2,500. As you can see, this is only a little bit more than 0.8%, but due to the current low interest rate of 3.5% and the low property taxes of $200 per month on this home, the numbers actually made sense. You should not only look at the purchase price, but the monthly payment and what your return is going to end up being as well. And in this case, ours was a 17% cash-on-cash return. If you want an explanation of how this calculation works, take a look at the video linked right up here, and it will give you a solid explanation of how the cash-on-cash return works. But once you have figured out what sort of property you want to buy and in what location, it's time to start putting in offers through your realtor. Now, I understand with the current times and COVID-19, some of you may be hesitant to go look at other people's homes in person. But the beauty of this process is that you don't actually have to go in person. You can use the statistics and pictures online alone in order to make your offer, because as long as you have an inspection contingency on your offer, you can back out for any reason that you want. Like if you don't like the color of the bedroom doors, or if you find out that the neighbor is your crazy ex. You don't even need an official inspection because you can be your own unofficial inspector at this point. Before you do this, however, do check with your realtor because different states have different rules for how the inspection contingency is implemented in their purchase agreement. And now for the main thing that everyone came here to understand. Once you have found that property and gotten an offer accepted, here are some of the main factors that you need to look at and consider within the property before you decide if you want to move forward with it and pass off on the inspection contingency. This is what I like to call the I care about list. First, just like you wouldn't want to pay Michael Jordan a max contract at his current age of 57, you wouldn't want to overpay for a house that has a bunch of old mechanicals in it. For example, this includes the furnace, the water heater, the air conditioning unit, and any other major appliances that are included in the property sale. You need to try and estimate the useful life on these so that you can estimate what kind of expenses you are going to be left with in the future if one of these items starts to malfunction or break. Second, you need to look at the age of the roof. This is one of the biggest future expenses that you need to consider. If the roof is more than 15 years old, you probably need to start factoring a replacement budget into your calculations when determining if you would like to move forward with the property. Third, what sort of upgrades have been done to the house and how is the floor plan? Some of the major upgrades that will command the highest rent rates in the eyes of a tenant are an upgraded kitchen, upgraded bathrooms, especially the master bathroom, and an open floor concept. Fourth is the neighborhood. You need to see how the neighborhood looks right when you get there and do some internet research on it as well. You will want to take a close look at what exactly you see when you pull up to the neighborhood and try to look at it from the eyes of a tenant and how it would look for them driving into the neighborhood for the first time. You will also want to do some research on the safety of the neighborhood and the surrounding schools because that will be a big factor for someone who wants to live there with a family. You wouldn't want to live in the same neighborhood as this guy, for example, and neither would one of your tenants. Fifth, you will want to look at areas that you can improve within the house and gain some equity down the line. For example, if some of the bathrooms aren't as updated as the others, or the appliances are not stainless steel in the kitchen, for example, those are things that you can easily improve down the line when the opportunities present themselves. Sixth, how does the exterior present itself? Such as, is there some nice landscaping aspects? One of the major things that renters look for in my market is a fenced-in backyard so that they can have their pets running around and have their privacy when they want to hang out outside. Not all houses in Minnesota have this, so it's a pretty big differentiator. Last is the overall condition of the house. Does it pass your eye test, and does it look well maintained over the years, or does it look like it's in pretty rough condition? I don't mean how clean is it, because a house can be cleaned pretty easily. But how is everything generally maintained as far as dents, scuffs, and things generally working correctly within the house? Now that we have gotten through the I care about list, it's time to talk about some of the things I generally do not care as much about, due to the fact that the renters do not care about these things that much. I call this the I don't care about list. First is having the prettiest looking house. I don't care how pretty your house is, just like I don't care how pretty LeBron James is, as long as he is solid and can get me some good numbers. These houses do not have to be gorgeous. You are not buying them for yourself, you are buying them for a renter to live in, who usually just cares about some upgraded features and a well-functioning and maintained home, not something that looks pretty. Those pretty houses are also going to cost you a pretty penny, and the rent won't be much higher than the other ones. You can aim to make your house pretty later throughout the years of owning it by painting the trim white or putting on a modern paint color on the walls. You can do this at the time you want to sell the house to attract more buyers, but definitely do not target a house to buy as a rental when it's already fully prettied up. Second is the age of the house. Instead of just looking at the age, you have to look more at how well the home has been maintained over the years and whether it has been continued to be upgraded or if it still has some of the original finishes that it was built with. Most of my rental properties were built in the 1950s to 1980s, and they are all doing just fine because they have been maintained well. A lot of times, most prospective buyers I know right now get scared off by the fact that a house is 30 to 50 years old. Now, while that can be scary, age is just a number. So now that you have locked down a property and either went in and inspected it by yourself or with an official inspector, it's time to start doing your final rental cash flow analysis. Now you can watch this video linked right up above about the 5 different ways that real estate can pay you to get a deeper understanding of everything that you may need to calculate. But the main thing that I look for in this rental cash flow analysis is first, your cash flow. If you are getting an expected cash flow from your estimated calculations of the rent minus all expenses, that gives you a yearly return of at least 10 to 20% on the initial money that you have put into the deal, then you are already getting off to a good start without even taking into consideration the other 4 ways that real estate can pay you. Second is your expected capital expenditures, which includes things such as your roof, your furnace, your AC, your water heater, and any other major findings that come up during your inspection that you may need to replace down the line. You need to make sure you find a property where the probability of these major expenses coming up sooner rather than later is minimal so that your cash flow can stay not only positive, but worth it to invest in this house. Third is the potential appreciation. You need to look at the comparable prices in the neighborhood that you're buying in and make sure that you do not price yourself out of the market. If you are the most expensive house in the block, that usually does not bode well for getting the best appreciation. And the last point I'm going to make, generally, for my single-family homes in the Minnesota market, I'm looking for an $800 to $1,100 cash flow per month on a house that is priced between $250,000 to $300,000. And usually this ends up getting me a 15 to 20% cash-on-cash return. But of course, every deal is different depending on how much I put down and how much initial rehab is needed. Well, there you have it. I hope you found this video informative, and now you know some of the key things that you need to think about when you're trying to invest in real estate. Now keep in mind that this video is based off of rental properties, so if you're trying to do a flip or some other sort of real estate investment, the analysis will be completely different. Drop me a comment below if you have any videos that you'd like me to make, or if you have any questions, or maybe don't agree with me in any of this. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all of my future content. Until next time.